Now, at some point, did Erik Menendez start telling you about sexual molestation by his father?
Yes, he did.
And did he also tell you about learning that his mother knew about it and what that revelation did to him?
Yes.
And do you recall when it was? Now, strike that. He didn't tell you about that in the beginning, did he?
No.
And when was it that he first started telling you about sexual molestation by his father?
In August of 1990.
And at that point, you had been seeing him for 2 months or so. It was the end of August?
Yes.
And at that point in August of 1990, had his condition improved at all from when you first saw him?
Yes, it had.
Now, had you been giving Erik therapy over the course of the 2 months that you had been seeing him, or had you only been trying to evaluate him in that time?
Well, I was trying to do both, but I suppose I was mainly treating him because I couldn't do the evaluation because I couldn't control him.
And to what do you attribute the fact that you couldn't control him? Was he just willful or what?
Objection, beyond scope.
Overall. Well, primarily it was just how sick he was. And moreover, I think that it was a reflection of his basic personality structure.
In what way?
He was just a very emotional person. He was bubbling over with different kinds of feelings and emotions on an almost constant basis. He was not a reflective, intellectual type person like a lawyer or like a doctor or a judge.
Okay.
Some of the above.
Or most of the above.
Most of the above. And so did that mean that he had no control over what he was saying?
Well, he didn't have any control over it, and I don't think I had any control over it. And it was very frustrating for me because I am an intellectual, reflective person. I like to be in control. I like to have structure. I like to get the job done. And he was frustrating me. He just kept emoting.
So up until the point when he started to talk about molestation, would it be fair to say that you had not suggested that to him in any way?
Well, I wanted to ask him about it, but I mean, that's one of the last questions that you ask because it's one of the more sensitive, see? And I wasn't anywhere near there. I was still on the educational history and the work history. This is the beginning part, see?
So when it started to come out, the story of his childhood and the molestation by his father, was it in response to any questions of yours, or was it just coming out?
It was just coming out, whether I wanted to hear it or not, whether it was relevant to any question we started with or not.
Was he trying to, and did he give this to you as a, wait a minute, I want to tell you what really happened here, here's the story, I was molested, I was abused, that's why I killed my parents. I mean, did it come out that way?
No.
Could you tell us, characterize, how did it first come out?
He was talking about his relationship with his father and some of the things that were happening with his father.
Was this something he had talked to you about before?
The problems that he had with his father, yes, he had talked with me about that before.
Without mentioning molestation?
Correct.
And do you recall what the... First of all, you have in front of you a sheaf of long yellow papers. Do you know?
Yes, I do.
And what are those?
These are the notes that I made each time I saw the defendant.
And did you make the notes as you were talking to him?
Yes, I did.
And those are called contemporaneous notes?
That's a fair description.
Okay. And calling your attention to page 28 of your notes. Is that the first place where there is indicated a reference to Erik being molested by his father?
Yes.
And do you recall, I mean, if you want to review the notes, fine, but do you recall specifically what was being talked about when that first came up?
That particular session started with a conversation about relatives, his Aunt Terry, and then his cousin Andy.
Did he tell you something about his cousin Andy that led to, in the form of the discussion, that led to talking about the molestation?
Yes.
What did he tell you about his cousin Andy?
That he knew about some problems that he was having with his father.
When Erik told you that, did you know at that point in the session what problem he was talking about?
No, I did not.
And what was the next topic of this particular session after he told you about his cousin Andy knowing about problems?
His nightmares, waking up at night crying, breaking down in his cell, crying all night.
Okay. When he talked about the dream, waking up crying, was he talking about his mother there as well?
Yes.
And did he tell you that in this dream he wakes up crying, "Mom, I hate you"?
Yes.
And did you understand at that point in the conversation why he would have a dream about hating his mother?
No, I did not.
And did he then change the subject from breaking down in his cell and crying all night to something else?
Yes.
And what was it he then changed the topic to?
He was talking about as each week and month goes by, he seems to get more and more angry and upset about his parents.
Angry and upset about them, or angry and upset at them?
At them.
And is it after he tells you that he starts to explain why he was angry and upset with his mother at this point, why he is feeling angry and upset with his mother?
Yes.
And what does he tell you is the reason why he believes that now, while he's in jail, he's angry and upset with his mother?
Because he said he found out 1 week prior to the killings that his mother knew that his father had been molesting him.
And was that the first mention he made of being molested?
Yes, it was.
So it was not presented to you as a story about, poor me, I'm a molested kid, my father was a real bad guy.
Objection, Mrs. Breeden.
Sustained as to the form of the question.
Okay. Did he present the information about being molested to you in the form of an excuse or an explanation for his parents, or why he killed his parents? When he first starts, do you understand the question?
Yes, I think I understand the question. I don't believe so. It's a rather vague general question.
Oh, okay. When you're treating someone, okay, is the jumping off point for treating someone in legitimate therapy working with whatever feelings, strong feelings they're experiencing at the time?
Objection, irrelevant.
Sustained as to the question.
At this point, when Erik is telling you about the molestation, when he starts to tell you, are you treating him?
Yes, I am treating him.
And are you trying to stop him from expressing feelings about his parents? Or are you trying to encourage him to do that? Or just letting him do that?
Well, basically, at this point, I'm just keeping my mouth shut and listening.
Okay. And you're not suggesting anything to him?
I don't think that would work. I can't control him. You know, he won't even answer simple, direct questions and stay on topic with me. So I have learned that We're not going to go that way. I want to go that way. We're not going to go that
So
way.
you're just listening. You're not suggesting anything to him.
I have no choice. I have to shut up and listen.
Okay, I
And
understand.
this is in his best interest in terms of trying to treat him, because it seems to be helping him. He
What
seems to
seems
be
to-
getting better. The
What-
medicine and me just shutting up and listening.
Okay, so his talking about things seems to be making him better.
He seems to be getting things off his chest and emoting and crying and so forth. It seems like it's a release for him. He gets a benefit out of it. He tells me that...
Okay, if we could just use the past tense, since this all occurred sometime in the past, it would help so that we don't confuse things with what's happening today.
Okay.
He told me that he felt better after each of the sessions, and he appreciated it, and he looked forward to the next session.
Now, when he mentions in this particular session in August that he is upset with his mother because she knew that his father had molested him, did you then start asking him questions?
Yeah, I think at that point, not being a dummy, I said, why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
Okay. And was that all you said before he started telling you more about it?
Yes.
And what was it he then told you? I'm not going to go through this line by line, but in this first session, in the first few sessions where he's talking about the molestation, what basically does he tell you?
Objection vague as to when.
Well,
All right, just generally, you're talking about one session or more than one session?
were there a couple of sessions, two or... Well, let me ask you this. Would he then, from then on, from the time he first mentioned the molestation, would he, on his own, willingly talk about it in every single session after that?
No, he was very reluctant to talk about that.
And would he talk about it, say, in one session or two in a row, and then on the third session start talking about other things and not refer to it?
Oh, it was more than skipping one session and then talking about it in two. It was more like it would come out in one session, and then there'd be 3 or 4 sessions where it wouldn't be talked about again. Then there'd be a little bit of it in session number 5 or 6. Then there wouldn't be any for the next 2, 3, 4 sessions. That kind of situation. I think there were times when I would see him half a dozen times, 8 times, and this would never be mentioned. Yeah, I wanted to know about it, but I realized that if I pushed it and I went into that area, that nothing was going to happen.
What was his demeanor, or his affect, I think is the word, psychology, when he would talk to you about the molestation?
He would look down at the floor. There would be tears in his eyes. Sometimes he would be sobbing. He would be gasping for breath. His hands would shake. Sometimes his whole body would tremble.
And when he told you, you've indicated it would be broken up sometimes for a month or 2 even. If you're seeing him once a week for 8 sessions would be 2 months, correct?
Yes.
And then he would talk about it some more. Did it come out as a continuous saga, or was there a lot of repetition and a lot of disjointed references?
Well, I think it'd be better to describe it as it came out in fits and spurts.
Okay. And was there any organizing principle to how the information was coming out? Or would he simply ruminate upon aspects of it?
Well, I think the only order to it was that when he first started talking about it, he started talking about it at the beginning, when it first started happening to him, okay? And then the story kind of bits and pieces came out on an intermittent basis for the next several months in a chronological story.
So basically, were you asking questions about it in a chronological way?
Objection Vegas declined.
Overruled.
No, I think at this stage, I'm not really asking any questions. I'm just sitting there.
I understand, but now that is Vegas to time. You mean at the very beginning when he's talking about it, he starts to tell you how it started, correct?
Correct. And despite the fact that he is better over time, I still can't structure him.
Now, over time, does he go back when he's talking about it to things that happened earlier and things that happened later and jump around to different aspects of it?
Of the molestation or
Yes.
of the molestation? I think that would be a fair statement.
And did he spend a fair amount of the time during those sessions when he would talk about it, talking about how he felt about it?
Yes.
Now, did he ever state to you, Dr. Vicary, that he had certain symptoms or consequences or effects of having been molested?
No.
Did he appear to be trying to convince you that he had been molested?
Objection irrelevant.
Overruled.
No.
Did he ever claim that it was some excuse that justified what he had done?
No.
In fact, over the course of your treating him, did he ever tell you that he felt justified in what he did, for any reason?
Objection against.
Sustained.